different times for the city require different leadership. The last thing I would say is I think we have a state of the city right now where we could use a non-political voice leading the council. Someone that doesn't have years and years of political experience. Someone that can bring differing groups on the city together, even when they disagree, and build consensus where possible. That's something that I think I could do, and I look forward very much to that role. And so thank you all for coming out this afternoon. Thank you, Brian.
All right, thank you, Mark. John? Well, I caught some of the basketball this weekend. There were some buzzer beaters. There were some really, really close games. I'm trying to think what's left on the bracket.
Arkansas.
Just say Illinois. We're good. Yeah. Move big. Yeah. We're not crowdsourcing this one. Right. Arkansas is a good pick because the money went there. Zach went there. And that's good. Ryan went to OU, so that's nothing there for him. But there's been some incredible games. I thought Florida might repeat, but and that was a close one. They're out. So yeah, I'll go with Arkansas. They're playing well. They're scrappy. You don't know what you're going to get, and with all this college ball, it is anybody's game. You get down to the last few minutes. That's still a lot of basketball time. So incredible games. But I'm John Keating, and I've lived here for 25 years. I've served UNO Frisco City Council for the past 15 years. Started out serving my HOA. My kids were young and they're close to home. You do those things that are nearest to you. 4 years on Starwood's HOA, including 1 year as a work president. Kids get older, they go into the school district. Both went K through 12 here, both graduates from Frisco High. And was one of the only guys on the Spears PTA for about 7 years. Was the VP of fundraising for 4 years, and we set fundraising records that I think stand still to this day. I got the Texas PTA Lifetime Member Award from that work. Included the chamber in that program. A lot of it was the silent auction, and there was huge participation throughout the city. Small businesses that we invited to donate something for the silent auction and include their marketing materials as well. So we've certainly seen the city grow. When we first came out here, it was a reload for us, and so we were with a realtor, and we pulled up to the intersection of 121 and DNT. It was 2 lanes in each direction. There was a flashing red for 121 and a flashing yellow for DNT. We pulled up, there were no other cars around. He stopped the car and was telling us how all of this area is going to be developed over the next couple of years. It's going to be fantastic. Homes, businesses, restaurants, retail, all this incredible stuff. And the Ford dealership had just barely broken ground. To give you an example of it was the only thing out there. And I thought, where are we? And right then this tumbleweed blew across the road. And I thought, there is no way. But here we are today. Smart realtor. Yeah. I think I was like the last person in Frisco to get a real estate license, but it's turned out to be an incredible city. We're at about 250,000 now. Certainly, taxes, property taxes, cost of living, prices of homes, of gas, groceries, everything is a concern. Residents want to keep more money in their pocket. They want to keep the money here in Frisco. Traffic, obviously, the density, how to move people around, whether it's for work, for tourism. Of course, public safety is huge. Yep, proud to be one of the safest cities in America.
Perfect. All right, thank you. And thank you for keeping those relatively concise. I appreciate that. We're going to be on track here. All right, so we're going to dive into those 3 issues that I highlighted, right? And that is economic development being the first one. Each one of you guys have kind of touched on that. It's cool to hear the stories. I didn't get here quite as soon as you, but to hear the stories of somebody with the foresight to say, yeah, this place is going to be completely different. I moved here, like I said, 15 years ago. This place is completely different even from the 15 years ago that I lived here. So the question on economic development. Frisco has attracted major developments. The Star, PGA, the Mix, Fields West, you name it. But small and medium-sized businesses often feel overlooked. Here we are in the rail district, right? We all know that story. So what is your actionable plan to attract high-value projects while also strengthening the local businesses? And we'll continue that trend of going downward. Mark, we'll start with you on that question first.
Sure. Very good question. You know, as a member of the EDC, we do deal primarily with larger businesses. There is an opportunity to a small degree to tap into it to support smaller to mid-sized businesses. And every business, I should qualify that with like, what do we call a medium-sized business, right? I mean, the EDC, the vast majority of the businesses that come looking to relocate to Frisco are not your AT&Ts or others of the world. They are ranging, you know, in FTEs or full-time employees, 20 on up. And someone's alarm just went off. You know, the city is fortunate to have 30, 35 years ago, the visionaries in this city put on the ballot to the voters of the city the creation of a couple institutions, one called the EDC, the other called CDC. Each get a half cent of the sales tax. The half cent then looks very different than the half cent now. And the visionaries of the city made that decision over things like DART, which has proven to be, in hindsight for the city of Frisco, a very, very, very smart endeavor. The EDC has about a $3 or $4 return on every dollar it incentivizes. It's a brilliant institution. It has paid dividends to the city, continues to this day. So does the CDC. The CDC attracts and incentivizes smaller to medium-sized businesses, has done a lot on the rail district to try to catch it up to speed amongst all the different construction issues. But there's a lot of things we can do. You know, one of the things we do evaluate is when a business comes into the city, how do they partner with institutions in the city? Not just the school district, not just higher education, but how do they help with infrastructure? How do they help with things that will contribute to the city other than just bringing a large business to this city? I think putting a focus on that in any kind of development going forward, which we do now and will continue in the future, will help grow all aspects of the city from startups on upward. The last thing I would just add is one of the priorities and initiatives that is from the city and trickles down to the EDC is one of seed funding and venture capital and finding funds to have and help those businesses that are startups that have a lot of potential but are looking for capital to really grow. Frisco's a leader on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Ron.
Sure. I think, are we on? There we go. So this gentleman standing here this morning, there's two types of businesses here that I think the growth are very important. First of all, small business. This world our country's been built on small business. I've started several small businesses. They have the opportunity to become great businesses, and we need to help them. I'm thankful that this organization is here to do that. The second, of course, for us, and taxes are always the question. It's number two, sometimes number one. In order to keep us safe from increasing taxes, we need to bring what I call large, very successful businesses here, the footprint. Give you an example. When AT&T left Dallas lost $62 million in property tax from one company. The surrounding areas devalued by $2.87 billion for all the sub companies that they used. When they come to Plano and they build that 54-acre site, our wonderful county assessors are going to put a price tag on that, and I would say that one location would probably generate 80 to 100 million for the city of Plano. Those are the type of organizations that bring great jobs. They bring a lot of high net worth individuals. So most of the executives that work in Plano live in Frisco. So we need to build great businesses here where people live here and work here. Young people, you look at Legacy West. One of the reasons AT&T went there was because of Legacy West, so that people could eat there and live there and be close. We have the Star and Hall Park on the south end of town. Those two, Mr. Jones and the Hall family, they are pulling together to make that a destination property, which the Star is, but around that to build businesses where people can live there and work there. Young people love that. You've got the Mix now in the middle of town. they're doing the same thing. They bought the other 80 acres, I believe, to the south. You've got about 180 acre site. Would be awesome for large business, just like the south side of 121 west of the tollway. From there, you've got Firefly up north, you've got the PTA. So we have multiple locations here to bring very strong, and I call them top 500 companies. That's how we offset the demand for taxes, in my opinion, and bring great financial growth and stability to the city.
All right, thank you, Rod. John?
All right, I appreciate everyone highlighting all the projects that I've worked on the last 15 years. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, economic development here is key. There is a halo effect for these large projects that come in. The homestead exemptions, we can trace back to those corporate incentives. That's one of my favorite lines to help really truly understand how the EDC, CDC funding works. That money does come back to you. If it didn't, the whole plan wouldn't make any sense. So yes, we are Sports City USA. We do have the Hunt family with FC Dallas, and also the Kansas City Chiefs. Jones family with the Cowboys and the Star headquarters here. PGA, the Rough Riders are here. Legends basketball. More sports coming. Cricket has become a thing. Lacrosse was a thing for a while. Kind of went away. It's coming back. So you see how the sports market here has been a subset of the big business drive, the big business corporation, moving here to Frisco. Those incentives will continue. We do have 9 miles of prime commercial real estate going up the tollway, and that's where you want it. You want it on your main transportation spot. You don't want it in your neighborhoods. One of the unintended consequences of the small school model is you've got school zones all over the city. So you leave your neighborhood and you finally get going, and then here's a middle school, you got to slow down again, you get past that, and you're at a high school, and you finally make it to the tollway. So, which constitutes a traffic issue. Back to small business and actual items. This usually comes as a surprise to folks. Last year, we had 8 million visitors, 8 million tourists came through Frisco, in a city of 250,000. So that contributes to the traffic issue, but it also contributes to our sales tax revenue, which is another component of the whole economic development driver. Certainly, we want those AG pieces of property developed into commercial real estate projects, mixed-use developments. That helps offset the property tax burden on you, the hardworking Frisco business owner and homeowner, but also the sales tax revenue. That's what refunds, that's what drives that economic development and CDC coffers. That gives you the money to incentivize and not pick the winners and losers. So again, on the small business model, we encourage all of them to join the chamber. Chamber becomes a great hub for the business community, large and small. I applaud their effort to remain on Main Street as they're moving out of their business, as they partnered with the city to take over that building, bring some redevelopment, bring some small business into the heart of our town, into downtown, where we've made this $80 million investment to fix it. Is that my buzzer there?
That's your buzzer. Shout out to the chamber. You mentioned the new location that they're moving to. I think it'll be open in July is the time frame right now. It's going to be incredible. So thanks for bringing that up. All right, Shauna, you're up.
So for action items, I'm going to continue to do some of the things that I've already been doing for a decade now. One of those is I do believe that our small businesses are feeling a little bit of the pain of being left out. We want to support our corporate partners. We want to support the larger businesses, but we also have to be mindful that when we are broadcasting all of that and we're not making those connections for our corporate partners with the smaller businesses and really encouraging those relationships, that's leaving the middleman and the smaller person out. And they're feeling it. They're feeling left out of the entire growth span that we're having. What we need to do in that process is sit down and listen to the small businesses. We've got to take the time to be in front of them on a really reoccurring basis. It can't just be I show up every once in a while to speak at an event, but I'm not actually sitting down to say, tell me how your business is doing. What's working? What's the city hurting you? How's it helping you? What could we do better? And if we take that information and that feedback and then we go action on those things, then we're going to give real help to the businesses in what they really need. The struggle that happened downtown was because when the businesses said, these are the things we need, we didn't act on those items. We went and did other things instead. And if we had just listened, we could have heard some of those things and done some very specific goals for that. Another key part that I think is very different from me than all of my opponents here is that I spent 5 years advocating for the small business community when you were busy running your businesses and building your businesses and making sure that you could make payroll and getting your staff together, and actually sometimes just being at the counter when you didn't have staff. I was down in Austin advocating for you, for businesses, for things that would hurt you and make it harder for you to thrive. I was down spending my own time working for the chamber, but then also going to the federal level and fighting against things that were going to be a problem. And if we come together as a city, we've got a louder voice. So we cannot just work together as just the business community, but we can come together as the city and other cities together with those regional relationships and say, some of these laws that you're passing at the state level are killing our small businesses. They're stopping them from growing and thriving. And that's going to be an economic impact for all of us. So I'm going to continue to do that. And I think because I bring that knowledge base to the level of what the advocacy should look like, we've been very effective in some of those ways. But I also think the key part that comes in is then the connections that you make for those small businesses and that part of it. So when I'm at these different things, I'm constantly saying, I might know somebody that is then going to work with Christina in a great way. And I'm going to go back and make that connection for her and help her make that connection so that not only can Christina do well, but Debbie can do well also. Because when those connections are made, I can get the government out of the way, which is really what we need to do in the first place. We get the government part out of the way and we let your businesses thrive, and we just provide the foundation that lets you be successful in the end. That's going to be where we succeed.
All right, thank you. All right, I think we've gone through all 4 on that question, so we'll move to hot topic number 2, and that is culture and inclusion. So Frisco's population is becoming more diverse, including rapid growth in the Indian community and other cultures. Recent social media activity and city council meeting public addresses have ignited division. What specific measurable actions will you take as mayor and leader of the council to ensure that the city is inclusive, cohesive, and responsive to all residents? And again, going down the line to start, Rod, you're up first on this question. No, Mark did.
Sure. Turn that on again. Yes, so we definitely have diversification here. And again, as I started down that road at the beginning, the Hindu people here, the more I get to know them, we have shared values that we can start from. It is going to take relationship. We've got to reach across the aisle. You know, they've come here for the American dream, as my folks did 7 generations ago. So we're going to have to get to know them. You know, the word assimilation is used all the time, which I believe they love our country. When I went to the Diwali celebration, they honored President Trump first, our nation. They said the pledge allegiance to the flag. They sang the national anthem. They thanked our police officers and our fire for keeping them safe. So we have a great foundation to start from. We just got to reach across the aisle, and we got to build relationships with them. I will speak clearly about, and I stand on this and will, about the people that govern themselves with Sharia law. I will not in any way support. I do not support mosques being built in this city, and I won't. And I think it's a serious issue, a serious challenge that we have here in our county and our state. The more, if you'll educate yourself, it's something that we need to deal with, and I'm taking a very strong stand on that.
All right, thank you. John, you're up next.
Yeah, if we want to make America great again, it needs to be great for all Americans. I think one of the things Frisco is known for is building bridges, not building walls. One of our main messages is we want you to feel welcome, but we also want you to feel safe. I think part of what is happening at our council meetings is folks from outside the city who have an agenda of their own, that are looking at some other part of the country, somebody else's problem, and trying to bring it here, trying to force a square peg into a round hole, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the narrative, but it might boost their algorithms. And then as soon as the next thing comes along, then everybody's onto that. It was H-1B visas for a while, and then we got engaged in a conflict with Iran, and then all of a sudden it shifted to, now the Muslims are the problem. And we have this unfortunate bad habit of, we blamed all the black people for the welfare problems. We blamed all the all the Asians for insurance fraud. We blamed the Hispanics for immigration and being here illegally. And now here come the Indians, and they're being blamed for H-1B fraud. And it seems like anytime we have a demographic that finally reaches the middle class and finally starts showing a level of success, that there's another part of society that turns against them and feels like something's been taken from them that they were owed or that they were due, when it's simply the result of education, a strong work ethic, building a business from the ground up, having the knowledge and experience that you can pass on to your family, that you can pass on to your employees. And so Frisco is a place where people are successful. And this is a place that people are attracted to because of the school district, because of the business opportunities, because of the neighborhoods, because of all the fun stuff you can do here. And that will continue. So, and we'll see it change over time as our demographics shift and there's different reasons that call people here, most of them economic. And as the economy changes again, I'm sure we'll see it change here again in the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, like to say, recessions are like elections. There's always another one coming. So we can take heart in that. Our diversity will continue to be a diversified city, and our economic challenges will continue to change here. So I think we have a lot to be proud of in this city. The residents, it's been remarkable to watch them stand up for themselves and speak for themselves and reconnect with city leadership and school district leadership and business leaders and watch people come together to help and uplift their neighbor. And I will close with this. I'm a veteran. I'm the only veteran in this race. I don't know how many veterans we have out here today. Today is Medal of Honor Day. And so if you have a chance to thank a veteran, I'm not a Medal of Honor recipient by any stretch, but it's just, the veterans are an incredible part of this community. And as a veteran, when you see Americans fighting Americans, it is the worst thing ever. That is not what we go down the range to defend. We go down the range to the exact opposite, put ourselves in harm's way to protect the American dream and the opportunities that we have in cities like Frisco right here.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, and thank you for your service, and thank you to all the veterans out there. It's a great call. Thank you. Sean?
I think the key part of this is you can't start this when you're campaigning. You have to actually be involved in the different organizations and groups across the community when it's not campaign time. And so that's a key part of what we're talking about is you've got to be willing to walk into the room, even when you don't feel like it, even when there's disagreement. You've got to be willing to walk into the room, any room that they will invite you into, and have a conversation. And that's what I've been willing to do for years is to be able to sit down and say, tell me what your story is, tell me what your dreams are, tell me what your hopes are, tell me what you really want to get out of Frisco. And how do we make that work for you? And how does that, then you become part of this community and you can contribute and be a part of this community. And that's what we're going to continue to do. But I also think you have to be mindful of understanding that, there's a lot of conversation about the different cultural groups, and none of the cultural groups are represented by any one person or any one feeling or any one organization to say, well, I have a conversation with the Indian community. The Indian community is extremely diverse, and the Muslim community is extremely diverse, and the Mexican community is extremely diverse. And so we've got to be very careful about saying, I've got my hand on the pulse of this community, because you may know a few people and talk to a few people, but it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to understand what everybody wants out of that. And they all have very different understandings. So the key part is relational. You've got to start those relationships a long time ago and continue to work on those even when you're not running for something. And be asking how you can connect with them in ways to know their families. And I think that's what's most important for me is a lot of the relationships I have in the different diverse communities are because I know them. I know their families. I know their kids. I've watched them grow up. I've seen them do their businesses. I've supported their businesses. And that's what I will continue to do as mayor. It's not something that becomes, I don't need to step into those shoes. It's something that I will just continue doing and treating people with the respect that I've treated them for the years that I've been around them. And then the other part that I would say with that is we also have to be mindful that we are kind of pegging people into the different cultural groups, but we also have different economic groups in the city of Frisco, and we tend to kind of forget that So we have a lot of economic diversity in the city. We have a lot of neighborhood diversity where people in certain neighborhoods feel kind of left out of the city's growth and progress. And we need to make sure that we are connecting with every single corner and every single group within the community to make that successful and not just focused on one particular cultural group or another.
Thank you, Shawna. Mark?
So I think on this issue, I think it begins with leadership. I think if you want to be a leader in this city, you should speak positively about this city and all of its people at every opportunity you get. When I signed up to be a trustee for Frisco ISD, I became an advocate and as positive for that district as I can be. And I believe the mayor of this city should be someone also that speaks very positively about this city. You know, I'm going to answer the diversity, and Sean is right, there's different types of diversity in this city, and I want to answer it in a couple different ways, but the first thing I want to say is conflating H-1B fraud with diversity issues in this city is all kinds of wrong. And I'm not afraid to say that. I would imagine everybody on the stage and everybody in this room is not a proponent of fraud. It's pretty simple. To be more specific though, I think consider why people are moving not just to Frisco, but to the state of Texas. It's inviting. When a company moves here, when people move here, there are 4 or 5 metrics that almost every one of them considers: education, low taxes, safety, economic opportunity. We check all those boxes. And so it makes every sense in the world as to why companies that are growing, including growing legally through the H-1B process, move to Frisco, Texas. It's not a hard equation to figure out. And so, you know, they are not going to be opening and starting and growing their businesses in Chicago or Seattle. And so that's not going to change. I saw this past week, the state of Washington imposed a 10% income tax. Check a box for Frisco. And it's not going to change. I mean, they're not learning. These other communities aren't learning. And so we have to embrace that, and we have to understand that they're coming here because we have created an environment here statewide. And there's other communities. We hear about Nashville, we hear about other communities throughout the country that are also inviting. So you have to be positive, and you have to be welcoming, and you have to understand that they are here for opportunity. All new residents coming here. The other piece on the diversity item is one of age diversity. We are an aging demographic. One of the things I hear on the campaign more than anything is, what are we doing for the older population? Let me give everybody an anecdote. I bought my first house in Frisco 20 years ago. How many people do you think are buying their first house in Frisco these days? Very, very few. And so it's a real issue and a real aspect of diversity that we need to consider as well.
All right, thank you, Mark. Okay, so we're going to move on to the third hot button, I'll call it, and that's council unity. For those of you who don't know how the city council works in Frisco, the mayor doesn't have a vote in council until there's a tie. So if it's split 3-3, the mayor has a vote. So the way that I view the mayor's role is more from a leadership standpoint. How do you rally that council, and how do you generate momentum towards making the decision that's best for the city? So with that as kind of the level setter, with recent city council elections and several seats up for election in May, the reality now exists in Frisco where we have a divided council, or could have a divided council. So with differing viewpoints, that divided council will have differing viewpoints on some of the major initiatives. As mayor, what specific leadership actions will you take to unify the council, reduce gridlock, and keep projects moving forward efficiently for the benefit of Frisco? And John, you're up first on this one as we go down the line.
So politics in Frisco is a real thing. We're running campaigns right now. We have one every year for our school board and our city council seats. So the narrative that politics isn't part of this or isn't a thing is false. The trick is moving from politics to governance. and I have the experience, and I have demonstrated that for the past 15 years, you don't come on to council to make 6 new friends. You come on to make a difference, you come on to the things that you speak about, and you hope to be a leader and a driving force on council where you do have to build a consensus. You've got to get to 4, or you want to be in a place where the mayor is going to break that tie. Current mayor, Jeff Cheney, has done a great job of investing his time as a leader to use the time as best he can to educate every single council member and to answer every single question they have to try to get to a 6-0 vote, but falling short of that, if he can get to 4 on an agenda item that needs to be pushed forward based on his experience and his leadership, then that is the course that we take. He has made it very clear that he does not want to be in a position to break ties. He wants to get to that 4 vote, 5 vote, 6 vote. And if you watch a city council meeting for however many years, you'll see that about 80 to 90% of the time it's 6-0. That as we go through the business of the city, the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month operations of the city, we're all pretty much aligned. It's when these different hot button items come up, that is when you find the most debate. So working with the council members and working one-on-one, working with the community members, working with our business leaders, neighborhoods, police, fire, the different departments, that is where you have to be able to show those examples of leadership, and show the new folks, bring them in. They are in full voting members on day 1, and help them understand how all of this works, and then empower them to find the thing that they're truly passionate about, and provide them with that leadership opportunity to lead. Jeff Cheney said, John, you're a veteran, and you're passionate about veteran things, so get behind that. And we've had great success with that. I think that one thing I found, I've worked with, in the time I've been on council, 16 different council members, 3 different police chiefs, 3 different fire chiefs, 2 mayors, 2 city managers, a number of different staff members. What happens when new council members come in? 2 things you learn. 1, the politics, the campaign is not what they thought it was. And 2, if they do get elected and they're in the job is not what they thought it was. And that's where the leadership opportunity is from there.
Got it. Thank you. Shauna?
So I believe that the first thing that you need to do is take an understanding that every single person that's up there was elected the exact same way you were. And they have a voice, and they have the right to express that voice, and they have a constituency, and they represent that constituency. We get into these to issues when we start forgetting that, and we start thinking my constituency is better than someone else's constituency, or we're the right one and you're the wrong one. Every single person up there was elected the exact same way. And so if we can remember that, then we can remember that they have a voice, and they have a right to use that voice to represent their constituencies. Now, how they use that voice, I think, is then the trick and the issue and the respect that happens in between. And I do think that that's a key part of the leadership. If you allow them to have to be heard, if you allow them to disagree, 6-0 votes are great. I've been part of many 6-0 votes, but I'm really okay also. And I was okay with being the odd person out on a vote, because as long as you're okay with me voting the way I need to and the way I fully believe is the right thing for me to do, then I have to be okay with you doing the same. And if we can do that, then those types of places where the votes are different, it's okay, because we can move past it. It's not personal, it's policy discussions. And you may be at a different place than I am on that particular policy, from whatever your background is, from whatever your business is, whatever it is, and I need to be okay with that. That's also kind of the democratic process, so we gotta let that flourish. In that same vein, in allowing them to speak, it's okay to allow them to own that decision going forward. There's a lot of times where we say, well, this is the decision we're working with, and this is how we're moving business forward. And yes, that is the decision we're gonna own. It's the vote, we're all gonna live with it. But we still need to allow people to stand for whatever they stood for. Telling them that, well, you voted no, but now you gotta turn around and tell everybody why this is great. That's not right either. You have to allow them to be able to speak the position that they're speaking. And eventually, I think then the residents get to decide between that. They either like that that person's standing up for that issue, or they don't, and then the residents ultimately get to decide. Because what we need to remember most of all in our decision making is that we represent you. And if we're not representing the residents, then we're not doing our job. So how I do that as a leader is I spend the time in finding out, why is it that you feel the way you do? What is your position on that? what background are you coming from? How do we get you to yes, if we can? And if we can't, how are you going to live with this going forward? And how do we work together on the very next issue that's going to be on the agenda? Because if we focus on then the vote that was taken here, we've got a lot of business that has to go next. And so that needs to be the next step we do. And you touched on this, but one of the key things that I've been very, in my leadership style, is finding things that the other people that I'm working with can lead on. Finding things that they're passionate about, finding things that matter to them, finding things that matter to their residents, allowing them to lead in those areas, and also allowing them to shine in those areas, and letting them take that leadership position so that we can then say, you're invested in this, you're going to serve well. If you give them an opportunity to succeed as council members, then they're going to want to do better, right? That they want that success, they want to do more in that. So that's the leadership style that I would do in that part of it. The other thing is, and I think this is very
Shauna,
important.
I'm going to have to cut you off.
Oh,
because
sorry.
Apparently the buzzer went off
Sorry.
15:26. No, you're good. You're on a
Can't
roll.
hear
I
the
like it.
buzzer.
But like I said, I'm going to have to step in every once in a while and keep us on
Okay.
track. So thank you. Mark, have you gone on this one? Okay, it's all you.
So, I think when we discussed earlier, when I discussed kind of what motivated me to run this race, it was not just being a business owner kind of in this role. The other real issue was being an option that wasn't in some established camp already. What I saw with the candidates back in the summer or early fall was that you can identify, and we've all lived in this community, you've identified certain people with certain camps and certain political affiliations and rivalries and things that we in the city have lived through. And I wanted to just kind of break that up. I wanted to introduce something different. I kind of take pride in telling council members right now, when I've had discussions with them during this campaign, you don't know how I'm going to vote. I take great pride in that. I think the first thing the mayor has to do, for the reasons, Brian, you stated, and the role of the mayor, very similar to school board president in a lot of different ways, but the role of the mayor is to build trust with your fellow colleagues, whether they're trustees or whether they're council members. Understanding that these other elected officials come from, very likely, and in the case of Frisco, it's true, come from very different backgrounds. They come from very different political backgrounds. They come from very different professional backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, you name it. And so you need someone that has the ability to, one, be persuasive, two, be persuadable, and three, build consensus when everybody doesn't agree. I've actually proven that over the last year. We balanced about $1 billion school taxpayer budget, a monumental task that has not been done in 5 or more years. That was not easy. Everybody in that room does not agree on how to make cuts to $1 billion budget. 85% of the Frisco ISD school budget is labor, i.e. teachers, educators, professionals. It's very hard to make decisions like that. It upsets, it disturbs a lot of people for good reason. And so you have to have someone that can work with different thoughts, different ideas, different backgrounds to build consensus, to advance whatever the issue is. I think in the coming years, this city will have all sorts of opportunities with partnerships, regional partnerships, with education partnership. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I did hear that buzzer. And I will wrap
We
up.
suddenly got a volume increase on our buzzer. Not particular to you, Mark, but. All right, last but not least, your thoughts on this one?
Sure. I think the first thing that has to be done is we as elected officials, would be our council and the mayor, we need to remind ourselves and make sure that we're committed to this, that we're here to serve our city, not self-serve. The first thing you sign when you sign up to run is you will not use your position for financial gain. That needs to be the foundation of who we are. The next thing is that we have got to, I love the fact that everyone on a city council, and they are the decision makers. The only time the mayor gets a vote is if there's a tie. But they are the elected representatives of this community. I love the fact also that they are very diversified. It brings different trains of thought. And it's very important. Every voice needs to be heard. I think I'll back up to right now, when I go to a city council meeting, it's almost embarrassing to me what's going on in our city chambers before these meetings. The other night, I'm sorry, y'all, I left at 10:40 and they were still listening to public comments. The city's there to do business. There needs to be respect in that office. And I don't know how we'll clean that up, but that would be one thing that I would work on. But the council is there for a reason. We're going to listen to them, and they are the decision makers. I think as the mayor, you get the voice of the people. You need to bring that aspect to the council. I think as mayor, I understand infrastructure. I've built a lot of this city, built a lot of the residential. I have a great foundation that I could even help with that. When I look at a set of plans, I know what I'm looking at. A lot of times I think these developers come in, they're running stuff through as quick as they can get it. We have a great staff. Our city planner, John Lettler's been here forever. City manager, we have engineering staff that help us with all that. And I know our council listens to that, and as well we will. But I just think we need to come back to the foundation of we are here to serve this city, and let's make sure that the decisions we're making. Here's another thing. As I've learned being married, sometimes the best thing you can do is give up your right to be right. It goes a long way. So as we work together, there's going to be times that not all of our voices, we're going to have to agree as a council and mayor that, hey, this is what we believe now is the best thing. Also, I'm in business. Many times when Barry and I would agree, when we walked outside, we would argue in the office. When we came outside, we were one voice. And our agreement was, hey, if this doesn't work 30 days from now, or 60 days, or 6 months, let's be big enough to stand up and say, hey, this didn't work, and let's make a correction. Let's change directions, or admit and learn from our mistakes.
All right, Ron,
Anyway, go ahead.
we have a buzzer, so I'm glad we have a louder buzzer, because now I know when it goes off too. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, so we are at the wild card moment here. So this is up to you guys. Whatever issue you want to talk about, you've got 3 minutes to do it. So my agenda's off. It's all about you guys now. And we're back to Shauna as ladies first here. So go for it on the wild card.
A couple of things that I do want to make sure that I bring up is in conversations of public safety and in leadership. One of the things we've been very adamant about in this campaign is putting out real actionable items in my positions on issues. That we're not just talking sound bites, and we're not just saying, hey, you know, I believe in public safety, or I believe in traffic control, or whatever, that we've actually put out very specific positions, because I think it's important for you, the voters and the residents, to know what it is that I would vote for, why I would vote for it. And so we've been putting those issues out very specifically, so you would understand kind of where she votes, why she votes, what her position would be on the major issues that have been at the forefront here. And I think I'm unique in that way, that most people know this is how she's going to vote on those things, because I'm being very bold about it and saying that. We've been doing that for the last year because I thought it was that important. And a couple of actionable things that we've talked about. One is in public safety. The reason that I'm supported by both the police and fire associations is because I've put out actionable items about making sure that our veteran salaries for police officers are at the level that they need to be, compensatory with the communities around us. The reason that they've supported me is because I believe that because we are missing the National Fire Prevention Association standards of having 4-person crews, and that is going to start impacting our ratings and other things as we go forward. It's certainly impacting our ability to get grants right now. So those are some actionable items. Other things that I think are important is that when we talk about where I think we're going to go with the economic development, that I've talked about some of the areas where I thought we've done a really good job of economic development. And I've also put out positions where I think we missed the mark, because it's going to end up costing us in the future. And I think the way that we've made the decision probably didn't have the full impact of what we were going to miss from that one particular development. And that's not about trying to pander to different audiences. It's about saying, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be transparent, I'm going to tell you where I stand on something so that you know what kind of mayor you're going to get in this. And I think that's important, and I think you ought to demand it of all of your candidates to know where they stand on the issues that have been in front of you.
Thank you, Shauna. Mark?
So I think the city is ready for some change. I think it's ready for some new positive leadership that can come in here and win for the city over the next several years. I think there's going to be tons of opportunities. AT&T goes to Plano. There's several right behind it. And we need to win those battles. We need to win these relationships with our partners as budget gets constrained in future years. We need to have those relationships. I want to be in that room, to be perfectly honest with you. I think I can serve the city best in that room. And that motivates me. You know, I think, you know, being a parent of a current student in Frisco, being a business owner in Frisco, makes me very unique in this race. And it gives me a perspective that I think is very valuable. Over 80% of the electorate fits into those categories. And that means a lot to me, because we are invested in this community in a way that is determined to see it succeed. And what do I mean by that? There's different ways that we can engage, and I'll just use a couple examples. How do we become intentional about activities and engagement? And I used this example a week or so ago. I was in Frisco Square for Christmas, set out the whole evening aside, took the family, my wife, my daughter, we went there. We were done in 20 minutes. And we spent $30 in the process at a little white maze that took 2 minutes. That's not what I want. I want a lot more. I've got a family that's going to be here for a long time, and I intend to have much more engagement in that. And that's just an example, but that's what you call being invested in the future success of the city, being actively engaged in the city. And we could replicate that kind of engagement over and over again. Parks, we talk about East Frisco, West Frisco. How do we become more intentional about having parks and cultural and engagements in older parts of this community? Again, something that we can be very focused on and achieve. And so things like that are what resonate with me. I tell people, if you've got a problem, come with a solution, period. I mean, you know, we're here to listen, we're here to learn, and we're here to, I mean, we don't know everything. And even, you know, on the school board, we take public comment every meeting. We have community input nights every other month for one specific reason, so that we can learn and improve and have solutions that actually work in this community. And that's something that I'm going to be very much focused on as your next mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Raj?
Sure. I think very important to our city is someone that will look at cost. You know, I was looking at numbers the other night. Our schools have $3.5 billion to be paid off, and our city is at about $900 million in debt. Pay out at the rate they're going is 2044. You don't know what's coming. I know that this city is going to have, it's going to be, the streets are going to start needing repairs. There's going to be maintenance. Nothing lasts forever. They were designed well, but we have highly expansive soils around here. It's going to cost money. So I really believe that, you know, the state of Texas has a surplus. I would love to see our debt paid off. Let's be a debt-free city. Let's build a surplus. Our schools, what's going on there? We are actually, I look, 5,700 people graduated last year. Our enrollment's about 4,000. So our schools are getting smaller. Understand that Mark voted for a $1 billion bond to remodel schools. I think we got to think about going the other direction. We may have to close some schools. I don't know. That those are things we have to start looking at in our future. You know, I think John voted yes for a $360 million performing arts center. I think that's something that's a no. We have got to look at, you know, our public-private ventures that we have right now with Toyota, with Jerry Jones, all that. He pays 100% of that maintenance. We don't have to build $100 million stadiums in this city. Those are the things that we have to look at. So I'm very concerned about controlling costs, and of course, let's bring the folks that are going to build our tax base. I think that the animal shelter, I just found out that in 2028, Collin County's kicking us out. So it's something that I think it's got to come back. We need to do a study on it. We did 7 studies on the performing arts. We've done 0 on an animal shelter. I love animals. We've got dogs. I've got 4 girls. I've had animals all my life around the house, but it's something that we can look at. Their rates are going up every day anyway. They're holding $1.2 million or $1.8 million in tax dollars for our parks because we won't sign. And I don't think we need to sign. So I stand with the city on that, but it's something that we need to look at. And I think partnerships with Prosper, I've heard Little Elm was interested. bring 3 cities together, I think we could build a fabulous animal shelter. So.
All right, thank you, Rob. John?
Thanks. Wow, it's a lot, but, that's, let me pivot and just come back to, yes, this city is represented by both sides of the economic bell curve. There is diversity of thought and diversity of action. We have been on a straight up course for growth, development, and we've been able to be reactive, and now we're finally at a place to be proactive with our infrastructure, with our public safety. We've got 10 fire stations with number 11 on the books. Number 9 is a training facility that serves the entire region. We now have our own police academy. We've graduated 2 classes from that academy. Class number 3 is in session now. Our police officers have the best equipment. In the time that I've been on council, we've switched from the 4-door sedan to the Tahoes. We have tasers. We have more police officers. They have the firearms that they want to carry and train with. We've got the dogs, the drones. We've embraced those traditional police and fire, those public safety systems, and then we've also brought in new ones using innovation and technology to protect our citizens and also protect those first responders. Done an incredible job of that. ISO 1 rating lowers your insurance costs. The work we've done with our regional partners, federal, state, county, to work on roads, moving traffic around. 380 is a great example of collaborative efforts. The work we've done on 423, we paid a little bit extra and said if you're an engineer wants to start at one end or the other, they want to up by 380 or down by 121, we'll say Frisco will pay a little bit extra to get you to start in the middle. And that was years ago. We got 423 done in the area that we had our senior citizens and our Del Webb community, over 55 community. So we need to get this done quickly and efficiently for them. Legacy was another classic example. SLAM, working with those neighborhoods that are there to build legacy in a way that would last. We would do it right the first time and that would serve that community. Main Street, another example, 8 years working with the community, working with the business owners, working with the residents in that area to not just put lipstick on the pig, but to dig up the dirt. I mean, it doesn't matter what your business is. If your toilets aren't flushing and your lights aren't staying on because you don't have the water pressure and the grid in your area is so old and no one knows where anything is underground, that's the oldest part of our city. So that was an $80 million investment to dig all that up, to make it all work properly. And oh, by the way, we buried the power lines while we were down there. So that's my buzzer, but I will push to lead this city in the right direction and with the economic and social prosperity that we have enjoyed.
Awesome. All right, so that is our designated questions, and with the wild card added in, that is our agenda. What I'd like to do is open it up to the audience for some Q&A. Now, time check, we've got 6 minutes till 1 o'clock. If you guys are able to stick around for a little bit longer, that would be awesome. I do want to hear from the audience, and Lennon, I'm going to let you pick out. And be loud and proud because we don't have microphones out there.
It's me.
Oh, hi, Michelle. You're out of here.
All right. I've been thrown out before. I just have a question for everyone about affordable housing. Shauna, I'm in your boat about the empty nest, and it'd be great if my kids could work and live here, but no jobs, no housing. What are we gonna do?
Okay.
Affordable housing for our college kids that are coming back and jobs for these kids.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. It was mentioned by one of you guys about our kids not being able to live here. So let's just go down the line on this one. John, your thoughts, and let's limit it to a minute.
Oh,
It's going to have to be tight and concise.
Yeah, we didn't have duplexes before in Frisco. We do now. The zoning for apartments can be used for townhomes. We're trying to encourage more townhome living to come off of that traditional single-family home that is so expensive and out of reach for young folks. We have also worked to reduce the number of apartments and reduce apartment zoning here in Frisco. We have enough of that inventory. I understand that apartments still, depending on where you are, can be expensive. I'm here with my
lovely fiancee Marcia, and her daughter and her boyfriend are in the apartments right behind Fire Station 4. She has a job here with a company, and her boyfriend also, we were able to help him find a job here as a physical therapist. So the two of them, they both graduated from A&M, have an apartment here in Frisco, both have jobs here in Frisco. So it is possible. We do understand that the housing price point is high. It must remain market driven and not subsidized by the government. And again, there are opportunities for different types of housing product. Yeah, and what I can say too, being a realtor in town, prices are leveling in some cases in starter home type things. As long as you have a handy husband or wife, they can still find a starter home in Frisco with a well-paying job. I'll qualify that. So I'm with you, Michelle. That's a problem for sure. But go ahead, Sean.
I think the key part was we need to make sure that we're bringing high-paying, high-quality jobs into Frisco, and more of those. We still have room to grow, and that will attract more. But the uncomfortable part of this is we can't be all things to all people when it comes to housing. And there were certain places that when I started as a teacher that I couldn't afford to live, or certain areas of town that I couldn't afford to live in. And there were things that I earned and worked towards and built up for. And, you know, as the mom of 4 that have graduated from college, part of that is this is adulting. You figure out where you want to go, you work for it, you earn to get there. And that's part of what we've encouraged with them. We do have a good variety of housing now all across Frisco that exists. And so I think you are starting to see that some of that is happening. My problem is when the government tries to get involved in this, we usually mess it up tremendously. And you can see that by the Senate Bill 840 that's tried to make lower cost housing by allowing for lower cost apartments. And I promise you, if they build those apartments in the commercial areas in Frisco, those prices are not going to be lower. So you're not going to get what they intended for. Somebody else is going to profit from that. So I'm always on the idea of we should lean back from the legislation that would control the market, because I just think we mess it up too much.
So let me answer your question as to this middle market with 2 specific solutions, some of which we do now and some we can do better in the future. Number one, we can incentivize and work with developments to make sure that middle market home is a part of the overall development. Very intentional about that. And that it's built at a certain stage of the development where it's known and it's coming and it is in that price point. Having that as an intentional effort in future residential developments, I think can help a lot. Number 2, on the job piece of it all, one thing everyone here should know is that on the EDC, one of our primary factors we consider is a term called leakage. It's a terrible term, but it's a term, and it deals with retention. And the city has actually dramatically improved over that. Why? Because every time a business comes in here, we specifically inquire and dig into who are you hiring here? How are you engaging our higher education here? And what that has done is it has reduced 20 to 30% the amount of people leaving the city rather than staying and working right here.
Thanks, Mark. Rod?
Sure, I think I agree with Shauna. The 840, where they can basically come in here if it's zoned commercial or residential or just about any type of zoning. They can have lots that are 30 foot wide. They can do low, very high density multifamily projects. That doesn't help us, in my opinion, it hurts us. The multifamily zoning we have, as John said, there's enough, there's too much. I know our CDC, when a high density plan comes in, they meet with them first. They gave me the example of one here on the east side, I'm not sure exactly where it is, of Frisco, where they, guy had 800 units on that zoning. They offered to pick up some taxes, impact fees, and bring some infrastructure. He actually lowered it to 400 units. But to get affordable housing, here's the problem with Frisco. You know, all my kids, my first one has finally moved back to Frisco. They all live on the outskirts because they can't afford to buy a house here. The same house out in Aubrey.
All right, Rod, I got to get you off.
Okay.
The buzzer went off. I always give homework at these meetings, and my homework for you guys, if you don't know what HB 840 is, go out there and research it. Frisco is one of the several communities around here who's impacted by it. I'm not going to go into it, but please do your homework on it. Yes, ma'am.
Given that the Choctaw Casinos is one of the sponsors of this candidate forum, do you support legalized gambling in the state of Texas, and do you want a casino in Frisco?
Ooh, good one. Who wants to take that one?
Can we make this a speed round, please?
Yeah, go for it. Mark, go for it.
So no, I don't.
No.
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 Okay, resounding no on that one. Thank you for the question, though.
So I was just curious, what are y'all's thoughts on more special needs programs in the city of Frisco?
So the question is, thoughts on more special needs, more or less special needs, programs in the city for those who didn't hear.
I'll take a pass at that real fast.
Yep.
I think it's something that will be needed to be a focus in the coming 3, 5 to 10 years. We see it on the school district. We see it in a big way on the school district. It's not a Frisco issue, right? It's a statewide, it's a nationwide issue. I think services around that, and not just FISD, private schools and other learning institutions will be a definite focus. I think surrounding that will be what kind of services does the city then provide to adapt to that larger community. I think it's a very good point. It's something we're already seeing.
And I'll add real quickly, one of the things I've been working on is Serve Denton has a really great program that's not city subsidized, but it kind of brings together a lot of the nonprofit organizations. And that is one of the things that it works for, is for the special needs community, kind of pulling in the resources and putting them in one location. And I think that's something that we could do here in Frisco, is modeling it after the Serve Denton model, where again, it's not city subsidized, but the city helps provide like the infrastructure underneath and then let them go to it. And that's a great model to allow those things, those needs that are met, whether it's the nonprofit community of special needs, or whether it's those who are economically challenged, or when our children are involved, any of those things. Putting those resources all in one place allows people to find the resources they need, because usually when you find a family, it's not just one thing they need, it's multiple things that they need the connections to. And so that's something that I've been working toward.
Go ahead, John. We've got some great community partners too that have raised this issue. Johnny Churchman, who built this theater, has been an outspoken advocate of special needs kids. Ann Anderson, who was just recently elected to city council, that was one of her platform messages, was serving our special needs. Some of our partners here, Market Street, HEB, they have employment opportunities for special needs kids. So it's certainly that some of the community awareness has increased. And I think it's a wonderful thing. I know there's a number of nonprofits out there that are working to help that segment of our population, and they've done a great job now of reaching out to the community for assistance.
Thanks, John. Brad, do you have some thoughts on this one?
Sure. Actually, I agree with Shauna. Basically what she said, we need to make sure that and I totally support anyone with special needs families. We know a lot of them, but bring that together where they're aware, they know where they can go. And then let's get churches and organizations that know where to help fund that.
Got it. Thank you. Got one in the corner. Yep.
Hi, this is Galvin. Best of luck from the campaign. We hope it's a clean campaign for all of you. I have a question regarding small, medium-sized businesses. I appreciate all the corporations here, the jobs that they give, all of that, the growth. But the small, medium-sized businesses cannot afford their rent. And it is a big issue, and they're getting forced out. And big corporations are coming in and, it's controlled by the property managers, the leasing. What would you do about that to help small, medium-sized businesses?
Great question. Let's, which one? Rod, let's start with you and come down this. Yeah, I'm sorry. So basically, Lisa's point was with a lot of the big corporations coming in, and really the underlying asset value of real estate and rents and leases going up, a lot of small to medium-sized businesses are getting forced out of Frisco. We heard this theme very clearly probably last summer when we had the EDC sitting where you guys are sitting. So what are your thoughts on how to remedy that?
Okay. Well, we don't want to do anything that would harm small businesses anyway. I think, when Walmart came into all the smaller towns, that kind of attrition happened. But I really believe that the businesses that we're looking for that have come here will offer jobs at really a new level or different types. Their specialty. You look at Oracle, or you look at all the companies leaving California. They bring a specific need for jobs here. would never want them to take away small business. I am a strong supporter of small business. That's what makes us great. So anyway, I don't know that I have an answer for that right now. But looking forward, as these businesses come in, I think, Mark, I know the EDC has their certain stipulations that they're looking for. That may be one.
All right, thanks. Mark?
Sure. So I make payroll every month. I pay rent every month. I pay insurance for a small business every month. I experience exactly to your point. I think one of the suggestions would be going back to the EDC role here a little bit is one of the things we do is the reason economic development in the city is so important at a larger scale is to broaden the tax base so that the individuals living here, the residents here, the small business owners that are residents here have a relatively lower tax burden. That helps. It doesn't solve a lot of the business issues. I think the other item would be keeping bureaucracy at a city level at a minimum. Everybody on the stage probably agrees with me on that. I think most small businesses that are residents here, we can help by keeping their taxes low. And the way to do that is by incentivizing the larger businesses to come here aggressively in the future.
Thanks, Mark. Shauna?
I'm not sure that we can do anything really to stop the leasing rates from going up, honestly. So I'm just going to be transparent with that. I'm not sure that we can actually affect that. But I do think a couple of things that we can do. While we want really high building standards in the city of Frisco, it is actually quite expensive to build small businesses and to build buildings in the city, the requirements that we have. And one of the things I was researching yesterday was even in the energy requirements that we've now put on some of these businesses, the high cost of you have to either purchase energy credits or you have to have all these energy saving things in your building, which then puts the cost onto whoever's going to lease that building. In that. So I think we've got to be mindful that we're putting those pieces of legislation onto our builders and our developers who are building the places where you're going to release, right? That they're going to pass that cost on to you, the small business owner. So the more we have those pieces of legislation, the more it's going to get passed for you, the cost. So we've got to maybe pull back on some of that. We've got high building standard as it is, and we just got to be mindful of that cost and maybe not put some of those other burdens on there that will be passed on.
Thanks, Sean. John? A lot of great ideas. You know, it's, again, down here downtown, part of the structured parking at the base will have space for small business, little pop-ups that can have very low rent, low overhead opportunity to get their business launched. We do have you hear Class A office space mentioned all the time. We do also have Class B and Class C, which means it's just a little bit older. It's at a different price point. And those opportunities are out there. I think what happens is we have small business owners who are focused on their core business and they aren't aware of another leasing opportunity across town. What happens is the bigger organization comes in, they get forced out, and all of a sudden they're basically out of business. They didn't have a plan for that. And again, I think the chamber has an opportunity to play a role with that. Certainly council to some degree, definitely with our EDC, who kind of has that 30,000 foot map and says, okay, if you're this small business and you need this number of foot traffic and you need this much square footage, you've got this many parking spots. Have you considered here, here, and here as part of your future business plan as a place where you might be able to move your business and remain open and stay successful? Awesome. Yes, sir.
Just two items real quick. First one is staff and many of the citizens put together a ton of time to finish the 2040 comp plan this last year. I wanted to hear from each of you on what was the most interesting thing, because it addresses a lot of the concerns that many have brought up on the campaign trail. And I wanted to see what each of you thought specifically about a unique part of that was interesting, or anything associated with that. Number two was, Rod, I was confused a little bit. You shared that you wanted EDC and CDC to effectively mitigate the pricing for landowners to eliminate multifamily entitlements. You mentioned that on social media. If you're also going to be bringing in large companies, as you mentioned, how are we going to be able to fund that if you're also going to fund mitigation of multifamily entitlements?
Okay, let's start with that. last question first. So Rob, did you hear it?
Yeah, so the social media came out, I think you responded to it, said I was crazy or something, I don't know. But so the clarification I got, I talked to George Purifoy, he said multiple times he had the opportunity to do it, but he couldn't make himself use taxpayers' dollars with the CDC. It is a possibility, but when I met with the CDC, they said, we don't like to buy dirt. That's when we come in with impact fees, we help in other ways to try and lower density. But it is an opportunity, but it's not really for the CDC to buy dirt. I think we can do that through other channels. But my goal is to lower multifamily zoning, high density, any way we possibly can. And I'm sure I don't know all the ways, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna explore them anyway.
Got it, thank you. And I'd like to hear from everybody too on that. That's a good question on your thoughts on the comprehensive plan. Key takeaways, concerns, bright spots, you name it. So John, we'll start with you.
Thanks. We do a comp plan every few years, and just did one here recently. So it's not an ordinance, it's not the law, but it's what planning and zoning staff, council, our business community can look at, and it's how we project land use and growth in the city. And I think what you'll notice if you compare them and you look at how they're color coded, you'll see that the multifamily has reduced, green space has increased, the defined space for commercial development, mixed-use development has moved back to our main thoroughfares and out of backyards and behind neighborhoods. So it's a bit more, it's certainly more focused now that we're about 80-90% built out. We've got about 13% left to develop. So it sends a very clear message to developers about what we're looking for and how to approach the city, how to approach our EDC with their business plans.
Sean?
So I think one of the problems with the comprehensive plan, and it's a great plan, it absolutely is, but when you put a number on it that says the plan for 2040, well, then that kind of makes everybody start to feel like, well, this is what we're doing until 2040. And that gives the perception that it can't be changed, and there's not things that are going to be updated. So a lot of work goes into that plan. It's a great plan as far as kind of a guidance of where we're going to go. I think the green space is great. I've always been a proponent of that. What I want to see though is, especially because the corridors along 121, and this is somewhat the discussion that's happened over the last few weeks, while the zoning may be there, those are the front doors to our community. And just the same as we see it along 380. And I do think that there is some disparity in what people feel like. We're planning on the northwest portion of the community, but we're not planning on the southeast portion of the community. And they're feeling left out in that process. And they're feeling that the quality of things that goes there is very different. And so while that may not be what the plan was intended to do, that is certainly the feeling that residents get from it. And so we've either got to do a better job of communicating how that's going to flow out and how that's going to look for them, or we need to maybe just take their input more into that as we start to see some of those things play out in the future.
Thanks, Sean. Mark?
Sure, and I think the question was something notable about our comp plan now, and I think, one thing I want to first say is, I know Karen Cunningham and others in this room very diligently, and Ms. Anderson collaboratively put that together along with others in the city. Sorry, Lisa, I see you. We got bright lights here, so it's very hard to see. But to get to my point, one of the things that I thought was notable was the future land use piece of it, and surprised me quite a bit because you hear so much about East and West Frisco, older, newer. But if you actually look at the map on that, there are significant parts of East Frisco which are new, and like 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and you see a lot of parts on West Frisco that are newer, but a little bit older than that, in the 5 to 15, 10 to 20 year range. And so yes, there are older parts of East Frisco, but when you look at that map, and Development Services has it, it was really quite interesting to me because it was very informing about, how some of the new developments, like still in development, are on the east side. So it just informs us as a community where some of the focus needs to be over the coming 5 to 10 years.
Thanks, Mark. Rob?
Sure, I think, the comprehensive plan, it's a roadmap. Basically, they understand percentages of what we have for multifamily and residential and commercial. And as it builds out, the last 15% of our real estate, it's a guideline. But again, I think as changes happen, it can be changed. So it's always, we can adopt whatever we need to make sure that we finish the city out strong. I think when you look at the east or the west, part of the challenge there is we have north-south boulevards on the east side, but they've been 4-lane, 2-lane, they're starting to get built out. Closer to the west side, you have Preston Road. Basically from Preston Road west, you have the north-south, and you get feed there from Plano, from Prosper and north. So that's kind of demanding. And I think on the west side of the town, the socioeconomic status is a little higher there. You know, the stuff that's been approved in the last 10 or 15 years on the east side of Frisco. Shauna, you were on council when that was approved, I believe. So I don't know, but it's still, we have to look at every piece that we have left, and let's try to build this out the best way. And the great thing about a comprehensive plan, it can be adjusted.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. And we got one question in the corner.
Yeah, I think y'all know what I might talk about here. About 9 years ago, I think, it was a top priority for the rail district, when Mayor Chin came on board. We waited 9 years, now we've got this great parking garage coming, and all the roads are done finally. There's a business owner, a property owner down there. Oh, we can't wait another 9 years for this to become a thriving area. What are your visions going forward for the rail district? Time, scope, helping the smaller businesses till, and especially, don't forget, City Block, 3rd and 4th Street, with all the business property, all the property that's owned by the city there. What is your vision for that, hotel, et cetera? What can we do to get people to come and make that 18-hour district that we've envisioned for a long time?
Good question. So so we are live streaming, I believe, right? And we're recording. So I just want to make sure people who might be listening and watching can hear the question. Danny, thank you. Question is around downtown rail district in particular. What are your smart objectives to really action all the development that's happened downtown? Is that a fair representation? Okay, cool. So Rod, we'll come back the other way this time. Rod, you start.
So I'll just start with the Main Street. It took so long to do that, and that's what I've done for 40 years. There's no reason it should have taken 19 months to finish that. That hurt our downtown, our small business. I don't understand. I mean, I want downtown to stay downtown, and maybe that's the plan here. I like it old. It's part of Frisco. It's part of the heritage of Frisco. It's part of our legacy. We've got all the new stuff from the Star to the Mix to PTA and Firefly. So, we master planned the Frisco district down here, or the rail district, in 96, 98. I've never seen any movement. Now all of a sudden we're getting movement. I think some of the parking structure is good, it allows for parking. It's always a challenge here. But between here and just say the soccer stadium, I would like to see, I have not seen it, maybe that's my ignorance, I haven't spent time to see it, but we need to plan this out where it ties, and that was always the plan, ties that area to downtown. We need to keep downtown a destination. It's very important to me. So moving forward, I will work on that.
Thanks, Rod. Mark?
Well, first, Danny, thank you for the question, and more importantly, thank you for being a business owner in this area. Certainly the uniqueness of this area must remain. I think my answer would be one more of engagement and activity in the coming years. Like, what programming do we have here? What are the reasons to draw my family, a lot of these families, to this area? And we already see a very diverse group of restaurants, activities, engagement. I'm very interested also to kind of see what kind of engagement comes from the plaza and those areas over the coming year, 2 years. All the way, frankly, from, like I mentioned earlier, the Frisco Square over to this area of the rail district. And so I think as a community, certainly my family and others that I know want to come here. We want to find unique qualities, restaurants, activities here. Just keep it intentional and have other good owners like you, and we'll be just fine.
Thanks, Mark. Sean?
I think the program is going to be key, and we're probably going to have to hire somebody that's specifically going to be directed to program, especially downtown. The problem is that the city has also created a lot of other areas that are going to require programming. We're going to be in Grant Park. We've got other city parks that have amphitheater type things, and in order to really get the full use of that, we want to make sure they're not cannibalizing off of each other. And so there's going to have to be a very coordinated effort in that. That we do. But I also think we don't need to start big. We don't need to start with these giant festivals or these giant things that occur. A lot of city festivals that start and are successful in surrounding communities, they start off really small and they just focus on a couple of things, like a small wine walk through a short area of town, or something that you do in different parts of the year. So you create different seasonal type events, and they don't have to be these giant things where we're spending a lot of money to do it, but that attracts people to go. And once they go, they find out it's a great place to go. They see the businesses, they know the businesses, and they love them. Then they want to keep coming back for those different events that are there, and that's the way to start that.
Thanks, Sean. John? All right, I'll try and burst transmission here. So we will have somebody programming that probably will get handed off to a private company to make sure that programming goes. Start with a lot of small, as Shauna said, a lot of small opportunities down there. Rollertown obviously anchors one end. We do have an active freight line in the middle of town. Getting people past that safely is part of the plan. The city did buy a certain section of real estate down there so that we can build to the vision, to the investment that the citizens made. That $80 million that went in down there, we used every bit of that money wisely and the way it was intended and planned out over the years. Danny, don't mind my saying, you were on that downtown advisory board for many years. You stuck around long after. You've got great business down there. I literally went to work for them just before the construction started for free, as they got a new concept started. We had a lot of fun with that, and then met Marcia and got taken away from that opportunity there, but hope to revisit it perhaps one day. Closing on that note, downtown's going to be amazing, and I think we've seen kind of what we're planning to do even with microtransit down there.
Okay, we've got a question over here. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I've had a chance to review each of your campaign finance reports that were filed a few months ago. And I have a question for each of you. Twofold. One, what is your philosophy of accepting campaign contributions from developers? And secondly, should there be some sort of a limit on the amount the contribution should be? And I not to pick on you, Mr. Keating, but you have one it stands out. One firm had contributed $100,000 to your campaign. Again, not to pick on you, but the numbers are what the numbers are. So I'd like to hear y'all's comments on that.
Okay, so again, question twofold, thoughts on the campaign financing, I guess in general, and more importantly, accepting money from developers. Is that a fair representation?
And then should there be a limit on?
And should there be a limit on those campaign contributions? And since you asked John specifically, we'll start with you, John.
Sure. So the donation has to come from an individual or a sole proprietor LLC. So the name of that person is going to be on there unless it's that sole proprietor LLC. So it's not a developer per se. I mean, that person could be a developer, but just to provide some clarity there. As far as limits on that, running these municipal races, over the 15 years I've run a number of different campaigns, I'm probably out about $200,000, including a state rep race, that I'm never going to get back. Speaking specifically to this vendor, it's Primary Media, their digital billboard company. It's Josh Pfefferman is the individual who has donated the campaign, and I've helped him with his billboard up on 380 over a number of years, putting together digital sign ordinances that he's used in other parts of Texas. He has a huge digital billboard business. He's based out of Dallas, that's here in Texas. Let me go on.
Yeah, we'll give you a little time here.
So that's something. This is I think an important point that you raised, and I'm more than happy to speak to it. So over the years, I mean, as we expanded 380, that sign had to move. We had to find a new place for it. We didn't have a digital sign ordinance. We had to have an agreement with NTTA. All these things. And meanwhile, he's negotiating with other cities to take down, let's say, 3 of the old traditional billboards to put up 1 digital billboard. So as we're working with him here in Frisco, I'm also helping him with these other cities, just based on my experience. And I have not taken a dime from him over the years that we were working, because I didn't feel that was fair as we were trying to build here in Frisco. So finally, we resolved a lot of the issues that he had here with NTTA, with the state. And we were talking in September, and I was saying, I'm getting close to announcing, I expect this campaign is going to cost about $200,000. And before I could say anything more, he said, I'm in for $100,000. And I said, I cheerfully accepted it. I would really appreciate that. That would be fantastic. Since then, I've raised, my goal was to get to that 200,000 by April 20, by the start of early voting. Almost there. I still have a lot of fundraising work to do. I will probably maybe have to kick in another $50,000 of my own money to put into this thing. So if anybody thinks we're getting rich doing this, you are sadly mistaken. And I'll also add in closing, there is a tiny little stipend that you get. I don't even know what it is, because since 2010, I've never taken it. Somebody said I've saved the taxpayers over $60,000 by not accepting that money. But that's just one example. And believe me, I've never had anybody offer me $100,000 before. It is documented in my report. He didn't want his phone blowing off the hook as we're heading into a primary with everybody else saying, where's my $100,000? So he put his LLC on it, and he is the sole proprietor.
All right, thanks for clarifying that, John. And yes, these are essentially volunteer positions, folks. Yes, there's a stipend involved with it, but in the number of hours that you put in divided by the money that you receive for it, you're working for well below minimum wage. So just something to say to the group. Some people think that the mayoral position is technically a paid position, in that there is a stipend, but you can't live off of that. So with that, I'm assuming we can do a yes, no, should there be a cap limit on contributions. I'll let you guys just chime in on that, yes or no, and then we're gonna wrap up, because we appreciate the extra time, but everybody's got things that they need to do today. And these guys are super accessible. I've been able to talk to each and every one of them on a one-to-one, over coffee, over lunch, you name it, over the years. So with that, yes, no on cap limits for campaign contributions. John?
I think it's something to consider. It's something to look at. The state sets these rules for us, so yeah, and we can self-impose it. Some reason. Yep. Sean?
I don't have a problem with it. My only concern is that then you only allow very wealthy individuals to do it, because it's a very expensive campaign. So only people who are financially wealthy on their own would ever get to run for anything.
Yeah. Good point. Mark?
Yeah, I would echo that. I would probably be opposed to kind of.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, so we talked to 3 different consultants. They said it takes $400,000 to run for mayor of Frisco, so at least don't cap it over under 400. It's really ridiculous amount of money, but and I totally agree. I won't take anything from a residential developer of any kind of developer. If he sends it, I'll send it back. So,
All right, awesome. Well, like I said, we are out of time. We're way over time. Appreciate your time sticking around extra. Audience, thank you all for sticking around extra. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the engagement. Most importantly, and we say this every time we meet up here and we have public officials, get out there and vote. The percentages in Frisco are atrocious. 5 to 7% of the population that's eligible to vote actually shows up for these elections. Hopefully we get a higher turnout, because we've got a lot more going on this year. But get out there and vote, please, please, please. That's the final message. Let's get a round of applause for our mayoral candidates. Thank you so much.
The Community Difference, North Texas, is made possible by the Business Development Alliance and our premier sponsors: Choctaw Casino, Texas Edge Insurance, PGA of America, NAC Theater, Riker Home Services, Real Property Management Focus, One Digital, and by K9 Resorts, My Live, Love Travel, and Farmers Insurance, Best Buddies International, and No Sweat Experts. The Community Difference, North Texas, powered by the Business Development Alliance. Together, we can make the difference.